The CEO of the Local Health Plans of California, Brianna Lierman, come on up to the stage. How is it being a new mom? Congratulations.
What?
When we talked about this briefly before, I had forgotten, but we featured you and Amy Toma and Katie Hydorn in one of our 5 things we're watching. We're like, hey, some great people are expanding their workforce.
So the funny, not funny thing is there was a whole gaggle of women, I think approaching 10 in the healthcare space. We all had babies at around the same time. And Katie Hydorn, who's Government Affairs for HealthNet, we had ours on the same day.
Wow. Well,
so there you go.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks for having me here because it meant that I got to sleep last night.
Yeah.
So I'm nice and spry.
Well, thanks for coming down. I appreciate it. So let's start with this Cal-AIM stuff. First, tell folks about your association,
Sure.
who's in it, and who you represent.
Sure. So Local Health Plans of California, we are the state trade association that represents 16 of the Medi-Cal managed care health plans. Of course, the local, not-for-profit, community-based, and by and large public health plans that cover about 70% of the state's Medi-Cal managed care population. So a significant market share, not only in California, but when you put it even on a national stage, local plans cover more lives than any state's entire Medicaid program. Mm-hmm. And right here in San Diego, so I'm going to discredit myself also. I'm not a San Diego person in the sense that I actually work out of Sacramento as an association representative. But Community Health Group is a Medi-Cal plan right here in San Diego County, of course, the largest, and I think maybe in my unbiased opinion, the best one.
Yeah. Do you have any other members in San Diego County other than CHG?
I'm getting nervous because I'm afraid I'm forgetting
one,
but I don't think so.
So what do you make of this Cal-AIM effort so far, this effort to try to bring stakeholders together to develop consensus around the next waiver? It's early in the process-ish, but how would you grade that so far?
I would give it an A in terms of, Cal-AIM, for those who don't track as closely as those of us who live and breathe Medi-Cal managed care, is the state's proposal to advance and innovate in the program. And it's an A insofar as it's a wonderful vision for the program. And it's very ambitious and it's very brave for them to put on paper where they want to take us. And we think it's the right direction. And so it's an A in terms of vision. I like that you said it's early, because that's what I've told my board in many conversations. When you look at Cal-AIM, there are over 20 initiatives within it. Over half of them rely heavily, and as was emphasized to me by someone in the administration, is doubling down its investment in managed care. Over almost a dozen of those initiatives inside Cal-AIM depend on plans. So in terms of the timelines, I think that's a TBD grade, because it's a very ambitious and aggressive timeline to launch a number of these things by 2021. And I don't want to get too far ahead of you, but those are on top of all the other initiatives that need to launch in 2021.
Yeah. Speaking of other initiatives, we spoke before a little bit about this political space in which Gavin Newsom finds himself, the governor, related to promising, not promising, supporting, not supporting a single-payer model. You have some members who are pretty actively advocating for public option kinds of things, and could see themselves, like LA Care could see itself as, I don't think they want to be the only plan. They like competition, but that they could be across multiple lines of business. Sure. What do you make of where the governor and the single-payer politics have found California in December of 2019? Are we likely to get to a place by the end of this term that has a bill that gets a vote and starts implementation, or is it just too unclear still?
I don't know that I could crystal ball whether we'll see a bill with a vote and it makes it across the finish line. But I do think we'll see a lot more conversation in earnest about how to get there, whether it takes the form of single payer or a more viable public option. but a public option can take different forms. I would suggest that, in a sense, through local plans, and I think LA Care suggests this by what they offer in covered California, that California, in a sense, already has a public option. We have 16 local health plans that cover nearly 8 million lives, and almost all the local plans are all publicly accountable. We are a public option in the Medi-Cal program. The question is, how do you port that over? How do you build upon that delivery system in a different marketplace? And that is where the question is, and I think the rub is, LA Care has demonstrated it can work, and it works very well. I think they have a growing market share. They are indeed quite price competitive, which bucks the expectations of what a public option would do in a marketplace. So who knows where the conversation will go? I think when the commission meets and starts talking within, I would anticipate soon, we'll see where it's going to go.
Yeah. I know you follow this Medi-Cal reprocurement topic closely. Some people in here follow it closely, others less closely, probably few follow it as closely as you do. Jennifer Kent, the head of DHCS, stepped down. Mary Cantwell continues to be the Medicaid director. Richard Figueroa is now the head of DHCS, at least on an interim basis. How would you characterize, first, tell me, is Fig the right person to be leading DHCS through this next reprocurement phase? Would you, I don't think the association has a position on this, but you know Fig, I'm sure, and what are your thoughts on him and his leadership as we move into this space?
So Richard Figueroa, Fig, as we all call him in Sacramento, he's a veteran, so to speak, of the healthcare space, of the policy space, of the governor's office. He is extremely knowledgeable, and he is very easy and open to work with. And I think that is perfect for the moment that we're in, that there needs to be, as there needs to be with all of us in the work that we do, a collaborative approach to working in the program and to getting things done. And he's certainly the right person, and he brings that to the table and to the conversation, which is refreshing.
And do you think that this procurement, it seems to me that you shouldn't probably do the procurement without the waiver, like they have to be kind of done at the same time, and that you've kind of got to figure out this political piece over here, like what the governor wants to do with all this stuff. But it feels like the procurement's going to move forward regardless, even though it's already been delayed. So. Is that the right approach? Are we going to get enough out of this procurement? Is it going to work so it can match up with whatever comes out of CalAIM and ultimately meets the political vision of the governor?
So
crystal ball that one.
I'm peanut gallery observer of procurement, but I thought that when they dropped, so to speak, whenever it was, a year or two ago, that a procurement was scheduled, it was kind of like let's watch everyone scramble and see what it does in the marketplace. And it was a little bit of a distraction. And there's been a lot of chatter about what the motivation was in putting that out there, that a procurement was coming. It was a very shrewd move on the part of the people who did it. I think it is a good question when you take all these dynamics that we're focusing on and projects that we're focusing on today. Take CalAIM, for example. Take the pharmacy carve-out. How are you supposed to line up all those projects, those initiatives, and reprocure business at the same time? So how am I, if I'm the plan that's being procured, let's assume I have to file and have my enhanced care management program up and running while at the same time trying to break into a new market. That sets up some pretty complicated timelines for getting things done and making market entrance viable for some health plans. So I think it's very complicated how all these timelines and projects intersect with each other and may in fact be at odds with each other.
Christina Galley, who is at LA County, whose partner is Mark Galley, who now leads the Health and Human Service Agency, talks about California healthcare as being a place of death by carve-out, that every interest has their own carve-out, and that we're all going to struggle and die as a result. You mentioned Cal-AIM is hoping in part to standardize and streamline some of Medi-Cal for the state. Is it your association's position that these carve-outs, need to end for us to be thoughtful and careful and methodical about healthcare? Or, is every situation in every locality different? And sometimes maybe a carve-out in one geography for one line of business or demographic might make sense.
I think I'd flip the statement a little bit and say that we have to be thoughtful and measured in how we end carve-outs. To use an example, mental health carve-out. Counties provide serious services for SMI, serious mental illness, while plans covered services mild to moderate. Whereas that dividing line, it's not a black and white line, but counties provide, in many instances, tremendous service and are deeply invested at the community level with our members as plans and what they do. So to say they have to end, as an example, the mental health carve-out, well, it's not that cut and dry. Mm-hmm. You have to be thoughtful in the approach because you have a delivery system that exists today that may be a carve-out, but that is doing a lot of good out in the market. And I think there can also be a conversation in how can some of that continue to exist, and how can we as plans depend on those partners while integrating it better into what we do, using mental health as an example, using enhanced care management, whole person care as another example. So building on what we have today instead of reinventing the wheels.
So we're almost at the end of this grilling. But if this were a room of your members, of your 16 members, and they were all new CEOs and new C-suite and new SVP and EVPs, and they all said, you know what, I've heard so much great stuff about you, Brianna. Thank you for your leadership. If you could just tell me, how does Sacramento work? And how is health policy done there? How would you explain that to a room full of your new member leaders?
Stay with me and I'll tell you later.
Yeah, yeah. Keep sending your dues and you'll learn over time. Yeah.
It's interesting you asked that because I actually had one of my CEOs call me just yesterday, and I said, "How did you get this done?" I was told that this was absolutely impossible and it wasn't done, and I was told that you got it done. How did you do it? And I said, you're asking for the secret sauce.
Yeah.
I can't tell you that, but there is no one answer, I think, to how policy is made. It's a confluence of personalities, politics, market dynamics, but you have to know the undercurrent of just about everything. You have to be an expert in reading tea leaves, in knowing personalities and knowing what motivates people and knowing what's on the horizon. So I don't think that necessarily answers your question because I don't know that there really is an answer. So maybe it was a trick question.
Yeah, no, shoot. I mean, I ask these questions and let you take them wherever you want to take them. So,
well, thanks.
Brianna Lierman, Local Health Plans California, thank you very much for being here. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you.